Have you ever noticed that your biggest, most memorable fish often strikes when you least expect it? When you're not even really fishing? You're untangling a backlash, talking to your buddy, or just lazily reeling in to make another cast, and then bam, your rod doubles over. Today, we're diving deep into this exact phenomenon. We're calling it the accidental angler's paradox. I'm going to show you precisely why trying too hard is the very thing killing your catch rate. And I promise you, it has nothing to do with luck. It's about a fundamental mistake most of us make on every single cast without even realizing it. So let me ask you this right now. Do you believe your best catches were pure luck, or was something else going on? Let me know in the comments. For years, we've been taught that fishing is a science of precision. We're told to buy the perfect gear, master the perfect cast, and learn the exact methodical retrieve for every lure. We watch the pros, and they seem so focused, so deliberate. So we try to copy that. We spend thousands of hours on the water, repeating the same actions, convinced that more effort equals more fish. This mindset becomes a habit, deeply ingrained in our approach. But what if that core belief is wrong? What if all that focus, all that trying, is actually making our presentation look unnatural and spooking the very fish we want to catch? We're about to challenge that old way of thinking. First, let's talk about the biggest culprit. Tension. When you are consciously trying to catch a fish, your body is tense. Your shoulders are tight, your grip on the rod is a little too firm, and your mind is locked in a state of high alert. You're not relaxed, you're performing a task. This physical and mental tension translates directly through your hands, down the rod, along the line, and straight to your lure. You might not feel it consciously, but you are sending tiny, rigid signals with every movement. Think about the difference between a casual stroll and a nervous, hurried walk. They have a completely different energy, and in the underwater world, that energy matters more than you can imagine. Now let's see how that tension directly impacts your lure's action. A tense angler creates a retrieve that is often too rhythmic, too mechanical. It's a perfect, repetitive motion. Twitch, twitch, pause. Crank, 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 pause. It becomes a metronome, a predictable pattern that doesn't exist anywhere in the natural world. A real baitfish doesn't move with perfect, symmetrical timing. It darts erratically, it pauses unexpectedly, it flutters, it panics. Your tense, overly focused retrieve is the opposite of that. It's a robot trying to dance. It looks manufactured because it is. You're so focused on doing it right that you completely strip away the natural, chaotic essence of a living creature. And here's the brutal truth. Fish are masters of detecting things that feel off. A predatory fish, like a bass or a pike, has survived for years by distinguishing between an easy, vulnerable meal and something that seems suspicious. Its lateral line can detect the slightest unnatural vibrations in the water. Its eyes are tuned to notice movement that doesn't fit in. When your lure moves with the perfect robotic cadence of a tense angler, it screams danger, or, at the very least, fake. The fish might follow it out of curiosity, but a veteran fish will often turn away at the last second. It just doesn't feel right to them. Your effort is literally creating a signal that tells the fish to stay away. So what happens on that accidental cast? The opposite. Your mind is elsewhere. You're distracted. Maybe you're looking at an eagle flying overhead, or you're reaching for a drink. Your body is relaxed. The retrieve you make in that moment is not a conscious action. It's almost subconscious. Your hand might give a lazy turn of the reel handle, then pause for 3 seconds longer than usual. You might give the rod an unintentional little flick. These relaxed random movements are infinitely more natural. They perfectly mimic a distracted or injured baitfish. You have accidentally removed the human element and let the lure behave more like a real creature, and that is an irresistible trigger for a predator. Think about one of the most common accidents of all, catching a fish while you're reeling in at high speed to make another cast. You're not even fishing at this point. You're just trying to get your lure back to the boat quickly. But what does the lure do? It often skips and skitters across the surface, or wobbles violently just under it. This perfectly imitates a fleeing baitfish in full-blown panic mode. It's a pure reaction strike. A predator doesn't have time to inspect it or think about it. Its brain screams, "Get it now before it escapes." You didn't plan it. You didn't try to do it. You just did it by accident, and in doing so, you presented the most convincing fleeing baitfish imitation of the entire day. Now, let's move on to presentation location. The perfect cast often lands in the same obvious spots over and over again. We hit the edge of the weed line, the corner of the dock, or the same side of a submerged log. Why? Because that's where we think the fish should be. The problem is, on any body of water with even a little bit of fishing pressure, every other angler is thinking the exact same thing. These prime spots get peppered with lures all day, every day. The fish that live there are either caught, spooked, or have become highly educated. They've seen it all before. Your perfect cast is just another noise in a very loud room. An accidental cast, on the other hand, is beautiful in its imperfection. The cast that you flub, the one that sails 10 feet to the left of your target or lands awkwardly in a spot you weren't aiming for, often lands in virgin territory. It might be in a small overlooked pocket of water just a few feet away from the obvious spot. It's an area that hasn't seen a lure all week. The fish holding there is less pressured, less suspicious, and far more likely to commit to an attack. You accidentally found the quiet corner of the room, and the fish that was hiding there was ready to eat. It wasn't a bad cast. It was an exploratory cast you were too smart to make on purpose. Let's explore another classic oops moment that gets bit. Imagine you're working a jig or a plastic worm through heavy cover. You're slowly dragging it along, and suddenly it gets snagged on a branch. You jiggle the rod tip gently. Nothing. You get frustrated, give the rod a hard, sharp rip to try and pop it free, and suddenly, wham, a fish just demolishes it. What happened here? That lure was sitting still, and then it suddenly exploded off the cover in an erratic, unpredictable burst. This is a pure reaction strike trigger. It mimics a crawfish or baitfish being startled and trying to escape. No fish can resist that. You didn't plan that sharp rip. The snag forced you to do it. This brings us to the accidental dead stick. This might be the most powerful accidental technique of them all. You make a cast and then you get a nasty backlash. Or maybe your phone rings. You set the rod down for 30 seconds, a minute, maybe even longer, to deal with the problem. Your lure is just sitting motionless on the bottom. To your conscious fishing brain, you're wasting time. You're not doing anything. But to a curious fish, that lure that just crash-landed in their world and is now sitting perfectly still looks like an easy dying meal. It's the ultimate sign of vulnerability. When you finally pick the rod back up and give it that first twitch, it's game over. The strike is often immediate and violent. The core theme connecting all of these accidents is the act of breaking a pattern. Most anglers, especially when they're trying hard, are creatures of habit. We develop a certain rhythm, a certain cadence for our retrieve, and we stick with it. We do it because it has worked once or twice before. But we forget that fish, especially big, old, smart fish, are also experts at recognizing patterns. They see hundreds of lures a season, all moving in roughly the same way. They become conditioned to ignore that standard, predictable movement. It's just background noise to them. Your consistent retrieve is actually making your lure invisible to the fish you want to catch. Your accidental twitch, your unintentional long pause, or your sloppy reel-in shatters that predictable pattern. It's an anomaly. It's something different that cuts through the noise. It's like being in a room where a clock is ticking, and you've completely tuned it out. But the second that clock stops ticking, you notice it immediately. That's what your accidental pattern-breaking action does underwater. It makes the fish's brain suddenly pay attention. That moment of, "What was that?" is often immediately followed by a predatory instinct to strike before it gets away. You've snapped it out of its trance. This is why some of the stupidest fishing mistakes often produce the best results. Have you ever been reeling in a crankbait and had it catch on a piece of weed, and you give the rod a hard rip to clear it? That sudden erratic darting motion is a legendary strike trigger. Or maybe your spinnerbait flips over and buzzes on the surface for a second before going back under. These are imperfections. They are mistakes in a perfect retrieve. But in the world of a fish, they are signs of life. They are signs of chaos and vulnerability. Life isn't a perfect, smooth retrieve. It's messy, and messy gets eaten. Ultimately, what you're doing in these moments is introducing chaos into a system. Think about it. Nature is not perfectly rhythmic. A school of baitfish moves in a pulsing, flowing, and sometimes panicked way. A crawfish scurries and stops and scurries again. Nothing moves like a pendulum. When you are relaxed and not overthinking, your movements become more organic and therefore more chaotic and natural. You're no longer the puppeteer pulling the strings perfectly. You're allowing the lure to have a life of its own. You're letting it be what it was designed to be, an imitation of a flawed living thing. Let's dig into the psychology of it, into the idea of the subconscious angler. When you're not actively focusing on the retrieve, your subconscious mind often takes the wheel. Your hands just do things without your direct command. You might subtly change the speed of your reel or give the rod a little shake you weren't even aware of. This is your deep instinctual fishing brain at work. It's the part of you that has absorbed thousands of hours on the water. It's not trying to follow a rule book or impress anyone. It's simply reacting and existing in the moment, and it often knows what to do better than your conscious, overthinking brain does. This subconscious angler is your most powerful asset. The problem is we suppress it by trying too hard. We override its subtle, brilliant instincts with our loud, clumsy, conscious thoughts. We think, the book says to pause for 2 seconds. So we count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, and our pause is rigid and predictable. The subconscious angler, however, just feels the right moment to pause, and that pause might be 2.7 seconds long. That tiny, unplannable difference is everything. The goal is to trust that inner angler more, and the instruction manual in your head a little less. Here is a perfect example of this in action. You're staring off at the shoreline, maybe watching a deer or just enjoying the sunrise. You're not watching your line or your rod tip at all. Your mind is completely disengaged from the act of fishing. You're just slowly, mindlessly turning the reel handle. Then you feel it. Not a tick or a thump, but just a sudden feeling of weight, of mushiness. You don't think, was that a bite? You simply react. You lean back and set the hook purely on instinct. This is the subconscious angler in its purest form. You felt the change and reacted before your conscious brain even had time to ask a question. The key to all of this is learning how to tap into this state intentionally. It's about fishing with a sense of relaxed confidence, not tense expectation. You need to stop performing the act of fishing and just fish. You have to give yourself permission to be sloppy. Let the lure hit the water with a different kind of splash. Let your retrieve be a little herky-jerky. Intentionally pause for an uncomfortably long time. Break your own rhythm on purpose. Instead of trying to make every cast perfect, try to make every third cast deliberately wrong. You will be absolutely stunned by the results you get. Consider this a practical exercise for your next trip. Pick one of your favorite lures, but decide you're going to fish it completely incorrectly for 15 minutes. If it's a topwater popper, try swimming it steadily just under the surface. If it's a jig, try burning it back like a spinnerbait. If it's a worm, let it sit on the bottom for 1 full minute between twitches. Do something that goes against the grain, something that feels weird. This exercise does 2 things. 1, it forces you to break your ingrained patterns, and 2, it might just unlock a presentation that the fish in your lake have never seen before. It's a shortcut to the accidental mindset. Another critical mental shift is to focus on the environment, not the lure. Instead of obsessing over every twitch and pause, pay attention to what's happening around you. Watch the way the wind creates ripples on the water. Notice how the bait fish are behaving. Listen to the sounds of the lake. When you immerse yourself in your surroundings, you naturally relax. Your focus shifts from me trying to catch a fish to me being a part of this ecosystem. This subtle change in perspective automatically makes your actions more natural and less forced. You start to move in rhythm with the lake, not in opposition to it. So, to put it all together, the accidental catch isn't an accident at all. It is a direct result of you momentarily ceasing to overmanage the situation. It's what happens in the brief moments when you get out of your own way. Your relaxation allows for a natural presentation. Your distraction leads to erratic, enticing actions. Your bad cast explores unpressured water. Your mistakes are actually advanced techniques that you're performing without realizing it. The great irony of fishing is that the moment you stop trying to force a bite is often the exact moment the bite finally happens. So there you have it. The reason you catch more fish on accident isn't luck, magic, or coincidence. It's because your accidents are better, more natural, and more surprising presentations than your deliberate efforts. The biggest takeaway, the real aha moment here, is that our conscious effort, our desire to be perfect, is what makes us look fake to a fish. Those moments of distraction, relaxation, and imperfection are what make the lure come alive. This should fundamentally change your approach. Start building deliberate mistakes into your retrieve. Add random pauses. Try a sloppy cast now and then. Let yourself get distracted. Trust your hands more and your brain less. You have to learn to harness the power of the subconscious angler. Thank you so much for watching and for letting me challenge some old ideas. If this video made you rethink your strategy, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe for more content that breaks the mold. Now, I have to ask, what's the stupidest or most accidental way you've ever caught a fish? I want to hear the full story in the comments below. Let's share some of those amazing accidental moments.